All right, it's recording. So,
Okay.
who are you? What's going on here?
Well, I'm Rafael Sagula, dev lead for SoapBox on MSN Video.
Excellent.
And, we're going to talk about SoapBox, I guess, today.
Yeah. So basically, you know, let's give a little bit of background of what SoapBox is. Like, why do you do it? What is it? It's a video uploading service.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. SoapBox is the MSN version of user-uploaded videos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a website where you can go and upload your videos, and they get published online. Then you can use that video in your blogs, or just send friends to SoapBox, or other people will be able to find your video online.
Uh-huh.
So it's a place for people to post their videos.
Excellent. Now, what's the size limit? I mean, let's talk about that for a second, because we have uploads on Channel 9.
Right.
And we've suppressed the size that it can be, because when you're uploading a file, it's a synchronous request, at least with the default file upload mechanism.
That's right.
And so we didn't want to have 50 to 100
Right.
people trying to upload a 100 megabyte file at the same time.
Sure.
That would be sort of a performance problem for the whole cluster.
Yeah, that's right. That's definitely a challenge, right? So uploads, currently they're limited to 100 megabytes
Okay.
as well. There's no time limit. But we're actually looking to improving this experience a little bit for the uploaders,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a long time to upload 100 megabytes sometimes, depending
Certainly.
on your connection, right? Especially some DSL uplinks are not very good. So we're going to introduce new features in next release, which is very soon, and are going to improve that experience a lot. But yeah, we have a good number of front-end servers
Mm-hmm.
that take care of receiving those uploaded files.
So let's talk about that. I've noticed that what you guys are doing is actually really cool because it's asynchronous.
Mhm.
So how did you do that? How does that work?
All right, so before we even get to the
Sure.
upload specifically, right? So the asynchronous aspect of the site is supposed to be throughout the experience, right? So if you notice, you can go to the site and you can search and browse and play videos, right? And if you decide to browse and search for another video, you can do that without interrupting your playback experience, right?
Mm.
So that was one of the pillars for the whole design, that it would never stop your video, would never navigate the page such that you lose the context of the playback that you were in, right?
Okay.
So we went as far as enabling you to upload videos while you were watching your video as well. So that that was sort of like an accident in the development, but it was a happy accident because it turns out to be a very nice feature, right? So you're uploading, and then you can queue up the next upload. And the way we do that in the back end, or in the back end of the page actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's all on the client side, right? It's all Atlas based. So
it is Atlas based.
It is Atlas based.
All right.
It's an Ajax page built on top of Atlas,
Mhm.
and we do some magic in the page that while one of your files is uploading, we have the other one queued up, just using some iframe tricks in the page in the back end, right? And that's the effect that the user has. The user sees just a queue of files, and eventually they will all get uploaded.
Excellent.
Yeah, it works pretty well.
So now what happens? Let's map it out. So I come to the site, I log in, I want to upload a file.
Mm-hmm.
You guys use the typical file upload control concept,
That's
right?
correct, yeah.
And you're doing your asynchronous magic, which is awesome. That you're using.
Right.
And the user hits, you find the file, you begin the upload process. What is happening? How is that stream being processed? I mean, you're encoding it for multiple bitrate streaming?
Okay, so I guess let's talk about the life of a file.
Sure.
When the user uploads the file, it gets into our backend. The file can be any format, right? It can be Windows Media, QuickTime, or DV, cell phone videos, also 3GPP,
Nice.
whatever format, right? So you upload the file is in our backend now. At that point, we schedule a job in this distributed system that we have in the backend, right?
Mhm.
It's basically a cluster of servers, and we just tell them, hey, look, there's this new file to be processed. One of the servers is going to come to the queue and say, okay, I'm going to take it, process the file, transcode it to both WMV and FLV, or Flash.
Mm.
And those two files get uploaded to our streaming partner, right, for distribution.
Mhm.
And then the server says, okay, this file is processed. You can now surface that file to on the website, right? So the file is going to start showing up in searches and all.
Mm-hmm.
And the technology specifically that we use for transcoding, it's a transcoding engine that we licensed. It's very good. It takes pretty much any input out there today.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually something we ask our beta testers: if you find a file type that doesn't transcode, please send us the file, because
Awesome.
it's supposed to transcode everything, right?
Yeah.
And currently, like I said, just 2 outputs, right?
Very cool. But I mean, we have a pipeline for Channel 9 where we're built on top of the Windows Media, not Foundation, but
Right.
Windows Media SDK, and we use their encoders to encode
Mm-hmm.
pretty big files, because these tend to be long conversations.
That's right.
It takes a long time. I mean, it takes a fair amount of time, I'll say, for like a 200 megabyte file.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you guys have a process where you cut that time down significantly, because you don't want users to have to wait for an hour to get their job done, right? How does it work?
Yeah, well, there's not much that we can cut, precisely, right? All these files, they need to be transcoded through the Windows Media encoder
Mm-hmm.
at some point for Windows Media, right? For other encoders for FLV, right? For Flash. We optimize the profiles that we use. It's basically a balance between quality and transcoding time.
Certainly,
Right.
You're right.
So we're still tweaking the profiles as part of the beta. It's something we're keeping an eye on and optimizing it, right, every day. But
So what is the bit rate that you spit out for WMVs, for example?
the bit rate, I think for WMVs is 400 or 450 kilobits per second. It's like good for a decent DSL to be able to handle, right? And Flash, I think, is the same. I need to check that, but it's roughly the same.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the transcode is interesting because we're using a different version of the Flash codec, right? We're not using the Sorensen Spark version of Flash video. We're using the new one onto VP6, right? Which is supposedly better, and actually it is better in terms of quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the trouble is, in the back end, it takes a long time to transcode, right? So YouTube, Google Video, all the other guys, they seem to use the old version still, and I think the quality actually shows, because when you put the same video next to it, side by side, ours looks better. We have people reviewing the site right now saying this codec is better. For the end user, it doesn't matter. It just looks better, right?
Absolutely. So now, how do you guys categorize content? So, for example, if I want to upload a file that's like a screencast to show you how to write, some code in WCF, for example, how would I tag that?
Well, in the upload experience, right, there's a little form that the users need to fill up, right? What we require is the title of the video, a short description, and there's a line there that is the category, basically, and we have a list of categories that we put in the system right now. Things like entertainment, personal videos.
Okay.
So we think we have a good coverage as far as what we're going to get in terms of videos. There's no other, which is good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody puts an other. But also, you have the opportunity to tag your video, right? So with that, we try to capture both the taxonomy of our categories and what they call the folksonomy of tags, right? So we give you both options there. And
so in other words, I can create my own tag.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you're not happy with the categories that we have, you try to find the one that approximates what you're uploading, right? But you can also use the tags.
Sure. So I mean, basically, it's just a category and then custom subcategories.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
And I know there's this big debate about tags versus categories, which
That's right.
Sort of whatever. I mean, categories could just be buckets that contain tags.
That's right. Yeah. In the back end, the categories will turn into tags, anyways. The way we implemented it, right?
Cool.
And we didn't want to get into the debate, so we offer both. Either categories or tags.
Sure. So, for example, because it makes sense in this case to be able to subscribe to some RSS on SoapBox,
right?
And I want to see all the videos about WCF.
That's right.
Right. Now those should be on channel 9, but let's pretend like they're on SoapBox.
Well, let's fix that.
So let's pretend like you know, I make that request, and then you guys are only going to get a tag. I'm not going to give you a category. I'm just going to give you a tag.
That's right.
So even if I did use it in a category, it doesn't matter, because as far as the search is concerned, but it might matter actually. So how do you determine if I choose a tag that's actually been associated to 2 different categories? Does that cause problems for the search?
I don't think so. I don't think we got into that kind of scenario yet.
Okay.
But basically what we do is you search by a word. That word might be in the tags, in the title, or in the description of your video, right? There's different weighting for, depending on the term matching, where the term matches, right? We're going to give the results before or after in the search pane, right? But yeah, you should be able to find that video just fine if you search for that tag specifically. Yeah, it should be a match right away.
Very cool. Now, what if I wanted to host a video from your service in my web page?
Oh yeah, that's fine. So the web certainly, I mean, this year pretty much saw the embedded players becoming a standard, right? So our site also offers the embedded player that you can then take and just put in your. But it's a short HTML you put in your site, and it's a flash player. It works just fine. And yeah, if someone comes to your site, they're going to see a high quality frame, which is basically the same thumbnail that we have in our site, just bigger, and it's going to be looking very good actually. And then from there they can play the video and whatnot. If they want to do anything else like comments or tags, or if they want to rate the video or add to their favorites in SoapBox, they just click there. That takes the user to the SoapBox page where they can do the extra actions, take extra actions on the video.
Very cool. Yeah. So now, what's the design decision behind going with the Flash player besides multiple support out of the box and like Firefox and whatever else? I mean, what were the design decisions that didn't go with Windows Media Player?
Well, we use the Windows Media Player certainly for. We think it's a better experience on IE and Windows. If we use Windows Media Player, we think Windows Media offers a better experience there. But at the same time, we didn't want to limit the audience that we have for the site, because we thought the community usually for user videos is it's the type of user that might enjoy using other browsers, other operating systems, right? So we wanted to support all of those. So we spent a little time after we finished the IE version to then make it work on Firefox and Safari, right? And on Macs. For those, unfortunately, we couldn't use Windows Media Player, so we went with Flash Player on those two systems. So it's basically something the page basically decides on the fly. Am I running on Safari? I'm going to render the Flash video.
Cool.
Am I running on IE? I'm going to render the Windows Media video.
Sure.
So we try to use Windows Media where we can, and where it makes sense, we just switch to Flash on the fly. User again doesn't notice anything. Actually, we got comments from people. Say, well, what are you guys using? I can't figure out. You know, it's like
that's cool.
They had to sniff the network and see what the traffic was to be able to figure out which player we're using.
Wow.
Because it changes in runtime, right? But, yeah, it's a pretty good experience. I think we got a good compromise there for the user. But for the embedded player, of course, just Flash.
Sure.
Yeah.
So now, how did you stress test this thing? What do you have to do? I mean, like when you guys open up the floodgates.
That's right.
You know, you're going to get hit hard. Hopefully, that'd be a good thing. How are you going to scale? Because you're using a queue model for encoding. Are you doing? But clearly, you're doing simultaneous jobs.
That's right.
Parallel jobs because you have a cluster that you're. So that's going to definitely help you out.
Yeah, that's right. So scale is certainly a challenge, right, in this space, right? And being new to this market, the MSN didn't have any experience doing transcoding of high volumes of user videos, right? It's the first time we put together something like this, right? So we're still learning with the scale. It's like this type of system has many nuances with regards to scalability in the back end, right? The way we tested, we evaluated the software, the transcoding engine that we were using. We already had a pretty good idea of scale for the cluster system itself, because that's the same system that we use on MSN Music to transcode the music that comes from the labels, right, to put for sale in the store. So we repurposed that system to process videos now, and so it was just a matter of calculating a little bit. So okay, this is the performance we're getting on a typical machine. So it probably approximates what we're going to get in production, right? Calculation and a little math, and all right, this is probably the number of machines we need. But again, we're keeping an eye on how things go, right? Currently, it's beta, so we only have a few thousand users. You know, just slowly adding more users to the system, so we can keep an eye on performance, right?
Absolutely.
There's also performance on the front end, which is not negligible, right? So for that, we have a team dedicated to just, you know, load testing and scalability and performance on the front end. That's very typical. We sort of knew how to do that already. It's not, obviously not the first time we deploy a website, so, you know, it was just a typical front end kind of distress, right? With twists, right? Because now this site has tagging, comments, and, you know, things that might change your profile as far as performance quite a bit, right? The database now is not just a load or a read database, right? Now we suddenly have the front end service also writing to the database every time someone tags. You know, so that's also a challenge as far as performance and scalability, right?
Well, that's what we experienced with Channel 9 as well. Clearly, you have to fine-tune performance. You have to cache aggressively and intelligently, but not too much over the top, because you want things to change when they're updated. That's right. That's right. So you have to do, you know, it's I can imagine on the scale that yours will probably be. You're going to see some very interesting. I think it's going to be fine, but it's. Now the other thing I would ask is you're using a lot of Ajax. So you're making a lot of requests from the page simultaneously. That's right. IE has that limitation of allowing only two persistent connections, but you can change that in IE7, which is, but it's going to be a registry setting that has to be done on the client. Yeah, and the reason they do that is because HTTP 1.1 specification, blah blah blah. They follow the specification. That was great. Yeah, but then people always say IE doesn't follow the specs, but only they kind of pick and choose. Yeah, I guess. Well, we are standards compliant when it comes to, you know, persistent requests per client. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But I mean, I want to say when that gets upped, you know, I wonder how that could change. You know, that could be an interesting test for you guys, because it could impact your, you know, bump it up to 16. That's true. And then see what happens. That's a good point. Yeah. Although if it's a registry setting, we probably don't expect many users to have that. The average user is probably going to stay with the default, I imagine. Yeah. But hopefully. Yeah, that's probably a change that we should look into. But all the requests that come from the client, right? As I said, it's Atlas. So on the server side, all we had to do is to implement standard SOAP web services, right? We put the Atlas DLLs in our bin directory, do a bit of magic there, configuration, and suddenly all those web service methods, it's super simple. They just appear in my JavaScript code. Nice. And the JavaScript can show you later. It's super clean. It's like, you know, web service method callback. That's it. And with the same namespace that I used to develop the web service in the server side, right? Yeah. So the calls that we're getting from the clients are basically SOAP calls, which arguably could be simpler to serve than a full-blown web page, right? Sure. We don't have the HTML around it, no controls. It's just really the meat of the data that we just send to the client. Small request containers. Yeah, the encoding we're using is JSON, right? Okay. Again, super lean and very cheap to parse in the client side, right? It turns out to be a very good decision to go with Atlas and use web services for this implementation. It bought us so much time. It was great. We could just go straight to the point and develop the site, you know, not worry about all those details, right? So this is excellent, because this is an example of, not to be too preachy or evangelist-like, but I mean, this is a clear example of of an internal team taking advantage of our latest technologies.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There's a lot of customers, will ask us like, how come who at Microsoft is doing this stuff, right? Using Atlas and stuff in production. Well, you guys are.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you got to give them credit when things work out fine and they're good, right? And Atlas was a very good help for this project. You got to mention that whenever possible.
Cool.
We're looking now into getting closer to the technologies used in the live properties, which are a little bit different from the traditional Atlas that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a change for us and for them also, because we need Firefox, Safari support. So it's something we need to work out with them.
Cool. Which is a good segue into the next question, which is, what was the most challenging part of this project for you and your team of developers?
Challenging part of the project. I think ramping up on the Atlas and Ajax technologies, right, was something that this particular team, MSN Entertainment, didn't have much experience on. So that was probably one of them. I believe we did a good job on that because the experience is very seamless, and we're getting a lot of good comments on that. Discoverability, like I mentioned, certainly was something that we had to spend a lot of time on and think about. The project was done in many phases, right?
Sure.
It was not one shot from beginning to end. So it's kind of hard to remember now exactly.
Understood.
Each phase was a challenge on its own, right? We were using Scrum.
So that's excellent. You were using Scrum.
We were using Scrum, and we developed this product in 7 or 8 sprints with a couple deployments. Nice. One in the middle, one at the end. Right? So
what did you think of that whole agile programming team experience? I mean, what was it like?
Oh, it was great. It's working fine for us, right? Again, it's not something you take as it is, right? You probably take it and adapt to your team a little bit. It takes time also. As they say, I think I went to a seminar once, and they said adopting an agile process is an agile process.
Nice.
Right? So you need to take it and work with it, give it a try, change again, adapt, and feedback and adapt basically. So 8 sprints gave us enough time to
build MSN SoapBox.
Build MSN SoapBox and converge to a development process that we think is good for us now. That is going to enable us to deliver fast or quickly new features, react faster to changes and all that. And there has been quite a bit of changes in the marketplace, as you probably heard this week. And so those things also impact development in terms of we need to adapt, and maybe the project's going to take a completely new direction in the future. We don't know, right? So Scrum worked out pretty well.
Cool.
For that.
Now, in order to use SoapBox, you have to have a Passport account?
That's right.
So you had to implement Passport.
Yeah.
Is that fun? Did you have a good time doing that?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Passport is certainly, maybe I should put that in the list of challenges as well. So integration with Passport is a very complex system.
Yes, it is.
I should give them credit for that, because it's a complex problem, right? A unified login system that works only for internal partners, also for external partners, right? So I'm pretty sure they did the best they could on those. Unfortunately, the integration is also, it sort of reflects that complexity, right? And also in the middle of development, I think it was sprint 5 or 6 or something, they were changing to a new version of Passport. And we I think we were one of the first properties to switch to the new Passport. So it was our first deployment. First time we deploy a system with these characteristics that I mentioned, right? And the first time we deployed on Passport 4.0. So that was fun. That was a big deployment. The ops team, they were very patient with us.
Good.
We were on their office
a lot
late,
True.
A few days a week, because nothing was
well, there's so much happening under the covers on the server side that it's very difficult for a developer.
That's right.
I mean, you can't really. And this isn't a knock against Passport. I mean, it's just it's the way their system is configured, and as you said, it's a really hard problem.
That's right.
But when we were doing it, we've done it several times
Mm-hmm.
for Channel 9. We spent, the development experience for integrating Passport to your website involves basically a close relationship with your ops people, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to really know the people running the servers.
That's true.
Because you need them, right?
Absolutely.
They need to help you. You need to help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
there's certain things that you can only find out in production, right?
Yeah.
With regards to Passport. So.
Well, you know how Anders and his team are big into the link thing. Like, let's bring database programming and general purpose programming together in the language. Well, hey, let's do the same thing with Passport.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
But
yeah, there's certainly room for improvement there as far as the integration story goes and the deployment story. But once the system is running, it's extremely reliable, and
absolutely,
it's actually great to be able to treat that as a black box and just use it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a request comes to us, all we care about is the user authenticated?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the PUID? Okay, here's the PUID. That's it. That's all we need to know. This is the user. It's ID'd by the PUID, and we can then do our stuff in the backend, right?
Absolutely.
So it was great it was a pain to integrate, but it was great that we have this capability, right?
Absolutely.
Also there's also the UI side of things, right? The one that shows to the user, right? Customizing the login page.
Yeah.
It's an art on its own, and making it work for Firefox and Safari. Sometimes I think at MSN people tend to test more on. Well, we do test more on IE, right? Mm-hmm. And focus a little bit less on the other browsers. But since we're deploying on all three browsers, right? Mm-hmm. It was also work on the Passport side to make sure that Passport was going to work, at least the co-branded page, on all three browsers.
Sure.
So.
Very interesting.
But it does work well.
So is there any thought on your team about perhaps utilizing card space?
Card space.
InfoCard?
Well, tell me about it.
Well, InfoCard, or it's now called Card Space, is a new identity meta system.
Mm-hmm.
That basically removes the need for anybody to remember passwords. You use basically these cards. They're called cards on the client, but what they really are is just a proxy to a pretty complicated WS star, WS trust, WS security infrastructure.
Yeah.
That can work on multiple server platforms that have authentication tokens, and you have token service. And basically the idea is, from the user point of view, is you'd come to a card space enabled website, and you would be able to select your card. Like this website helps you determine whether or not you have a card that's going to work.
Interesting.
And so you just simply click on a card. You don't add a passport. You don't add a password. The notion of password is gone. It's more of a replaced with a visual concept. So it's probably something I should probably introduce you to our card space people.
Yeah, we should
evangelists anyway, and they can hook you up with.
Absolutely.
Could be a good use for a new technology on a brand new thing like SoapBox.
Absolutely, so. Yeah. Clearly, I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, but then again, I understand. I mean, you're using Passport because you want to be part of the entire MSN system. I mean,
that's right.
It makes sense. People are used to going to MSN and using Passport. So this isn't really a diss or kind of a replacement to Passport, but it's an evolution of identity on the web that's in a really secure, reliable system where you can't forget your password.
Well, yeah, that's great.
Right.
And I think that's great because it's super easy sometimes to just create a new account. You go to a new website.
Yeah.
And now it's even easier, right, these days, because all they ask is, what's the username that you want? What's the password? And what's your email?
Yeah.
So you end up with like hundreds, tons of identities everywhere, right?
That's crazy.
And nicknames. We have different nicknames everywhere.
Totally. Like, what did I use for my bank? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you forget, your bank locks you out after you try 3 times. You're like, oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's great that there's a team working on that. We should probably talk to those guys.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
They're part of the whole WCF kind of. They're sort of on top of all those technologies, though. It's implemented on WS Security and WS Trust, which are fully open standards. There's a great video on Channel 9 right now where Vittorio Bertocci talks about all of the intricacies of how it all works, but CardSpace is just an example on top of this kind of big authentication system and authorization system.
I see what you're saying.
But anyway, I like to always throw out CardSpace when I hear people are using Passport. Not because I have anything against Passport, it's great technology, but it could be interesting to see us using CardSpace a little more.
If it's better for the user.
Yeah. So how's this going to evolve, man? What's next for? So can I only upload videos? What if I wanted to upload a podcast?
That's right. Yeah, that's one of the items in the backlog.
Okay.
Talk about Scrum. Yeah, podcast is in the roadmap for sure. Other types of media, yeah, it's something we want to look into. How it's going to evolve? We're looking for partners. There's plenty, of course.
Yeah.
But we need to now engage partners because we just put V1 out there. Okay, let's talk to the partners and see how we can start integrating SoapBox into the other MSN properties or even external partners, right?
Yeah.
So that's one area that we're focusing on, APIs and external APIs, and try to make SoapBox a platform that other MSN properties can rely on for any video needs, right? We built all this backend infrastructure, right? This transcoding infrastructure. We don't want everybody to go through the same pain again. You know?
Absolutely.
Let's turn it into an open platform.
Fantastic.
So, for MSN partners, like I said, also for external partners to submit videos. Well, I don't know. We're sort of like studying opportunities, right, for partnerships. But that's one area, APIs. As far as end user features, right, more visible features. We're happy with the UI that we have, but we also see some problems and some details that we want to change. So I think we're probably going to be investing a little bit of time also working the UI and new features, make it even easier for users. We love the concept of watch and browse at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's great.
We want to keep that one. We think that's a differentiator, right? Also, we want to start slicing that UI a little bit, turning those things into controls again for other partners and MSN properties to be able to leverage those controls, right? So there's a lot of work certainly for SoapBox to evolve.
Cool. Now, are you getting a lot of feedback from customers?
Yeah, we have the beta team that manage the feedback, right? We have a blog also that is out there on Spaces.
Great.
It's in the bottom of the page now. There's a link to our blog.
Okay.
We get some feedback there as well.
All right.
The feedback has been mostly positive, especially with regards to the UI, like I said, right? The simultaneous watch and browse and upload and all those things that you mentioned as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned APIs, and that's awesome. And this is future speculation.
That's right.
This is not promises. I mean, it's clear that we say that, so then I don't have to edit it out of the video.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, we're talking about possibilities.
Yeah.
But one of the things that made things like YouTube really successful is that anybody can go there and just create an account, upload whatever, upload something. Of course, there was some moderation going on, but it was the idea of your expression, your voice, right? That whole thing, which is now we're doing with SoapBox, which is great. I mean, it's very interesting. And I know you guys are probably also working with video search, which is going to also be, I don't know if that's public information, is it?
That we were working with them?
That you're going to be able to search your videos.
I think if it's not, it should be, because it should be expected.
Yeah.
But
so we'll see if this actually gets cut or not. But,
okay.
But I guess what I'm really trying to get at is, you said API, right?
Yeah.
At Channel 9, we're a developer community.
Yeah.
And so that, my ears came up and my hair is standing up now, and I'm now sitting up straight.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about, when you say API and partner, does that mean you're going to have a public set of APIs, or you're going to have APIs that you only share with certain groups of parties?
We're working towards making a public set of APIs. Okay, this is our goal. Again, there's constraints that we still need to figure out, right? Maybe some of the APIs are not going to be that public anyways, but we're working towards enabling integration with any partner, right? Scenarios, maybe I shouldn't go into the scenarios.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I mean, not even the partners, maybe.
Yeah, no, we don't want to mention the partners' names. I mean, that's fine. But basically, the point of this part of this conversation is simply you know, if I'm a developer and I want to write a gadget, I could
Yeah.
see a cool gadget that I could have
Oh,
give
I
to my
see.
buddies, and they could upload videos to SoapBox.
Okay.
So in other words, they don't have to actually go to SoapBox.
Yeah,
But they actually are going to SoapBox. At least their data is.
that's right.
And then, you know, it could be a cool gadget, sidebar gadget. I could just drag my WMV and
Oh,
plop it
absolutely.
on.
Okay.
That's what I mean. That's
Okay.
all that I mean.
Okay, as far as those APIs, yeah, you can actually do that today.
You can.
We have the RSS feeds right there. They all have you can customize the RSS feed with parameters, and it should be enough for you to build gadgets on top of SoapBox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want to go a little bit deeper as far as APIs, but as far as we could probably consider the RSS feeds the first version of this effort of making SoapBox more of a platform, right?
But those are read-only, right?
Read only.
Yeah.
Read only for
So
now. Right.
So you could make a gadget that actually could go, and watch videos.
Yes.
By just enclosing the HTML
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's the kind of gadget that I see as being most interesting are the ones that are bi-directional. So I can read and write
That's right. That's right.
from my sidebar, for example. But blah, blah, blah. I mean, you guys are working on
Yes.
APIs. APIs are important
That's
to
correct.
developers.
That's correct.
And if you have this great infrastructure, and it sounds like you do on the back end, you know, heck, I would like to use it for Channel 9.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it after this meeting.
So that could be cool.
Yeah.
But very cool. Well, thank you for your time. I mean, is there anything
Welcome.
else did we miss anything?
No,
about
I think we talked about everything.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're very happy with SoapBox. And,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like Niners have given it pretty good feedback so
No, that's
far.
good.
When
That's good.
we announced that to go check this out. Now, how hard is it to get a beta invite for people?
Oh, not hard at all. Just go to the page, sign up. We've been sending batches of invitations every so often, and so
Excellent.
yeah, you're probably gonna go if you have your name there. Just
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I got one. I got
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
But so if you hear that, Niners, just go and sign up and start submitting videos. See if
That's
you like
right.
it.
That's right.
And
SoapBox.msn.com.
Totally, and you can tag them with Channel 9.
That's right.
And maybe we'll go grid it, show it up. We'll show your stuff right on Channel 9, and then maybe we'll go a step further in the year of the Niner.
You can use those RSS feeds also if you want.
Very cool.
All
Okay,
right.
well, thank you for your time. Great
You're
meeting you,
welcome.
man.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice work. Oh, I hit menu now.